friends. As you can well imagine, we are in a very fast mode, working in earnest now, just 2 weeks to Asia's largest aerospace event, and things are being put together very quickly. I'm pleased to say that we have almost, well, literally sold out all the indoor space that we have available at this coming show. We have 900 exhibitors from 50 countries joining us, and almost 70% of them are our returning customers, which also means that there are 30% of new customers, either new to the market or have never participated with us for the last 2 editions. The 59 of the world's top 100 aerospace companies are also back with us. We lost 3 key ones, and probably hit by budget constraints or market uncertainties. But all in all, 100,000 square meters of outdoor exhibition space. We just about maxed out our entire static aircraft display area, as well as 50,000 of our square meters of our indoor covered space. You'll see at the show, several companies have elected to build their own private pavilions, even on the static aircraft part. People like Bombardier have decided to build their own private pavilions as well. So quite a good change in landscape for us. Key highlights: 22 of the country pavilions are back. We have, for the first time, Japan and Ukraine government support coming in with us, and also an integrated display for land defense and unmanned systems. And back with us again is also the Green Pavilion, which is supported by IATA. The focus this year is on alternative fuel, to give an update on what are the alternatives to fuel and how are the developments in this area progressing in the aim to reduce carbon emissions. So that's where we are. We just received our 2 planes yesterday for static, so they're all coming in now. We're going to be quite up to our eyeballs, and so will most of you, I suppose. So we look forward to you covering it. We're going to talk about the 3 other key pillars to Singapore Airshow. They are on the commercial end, the Singapore Airshow Aviation Leadership Summit, which DG here will brief you on. And we also have a series of very tailored, specialized business forums, which we are getting overwhelming response to them. And on the defense side, we'll continue with the Asia Pacific Security Conference. And again, the number of official delegations that we're receiving for this year has already surpassed what we had in the last event. So, without any further ado, I'll hand it over to Mr. Yap here to give you an overview on Aviation Leadership Summit. Please.
I think I should also then stand up. First, also happy and prosperous Chinese New Year to you all. The Singapore Airshow Aviation Leadership Summit was launched together with the Singapore Airshow in 2008. It is an event that is jointly organized by the Singapore Ministry of Transport and Civil Aviation Authority of Singapore, IATA, the International Air Transport Association, and Experia. Now, it is an event that brings together all the leaders of the key stakeholders in the aviation community. You will have decision makers from government, including civil aviation authorities, as well as champions of the industry in the whole aviation value chain, the airlines, the airports, the air navigation service providers, aircraft manufacturers, and other aviation companies. Now, the Aviation Leadership Summit provides a platform for discussion with the wide diversity of views and perspectives that the different stakeholders bring on the key challenges and opportunities for aviation. And of course, it is also a forum for collective dialogue to look at the way forward for aviation and perhaps to also look at possible solutions to many of the issues and challenges facing aviation. Now moving on to the attendees for the 2012 summit. Firstly, we expect over 300 top and senior aviation leaders, and of these we are looking at more than 20 ministers and top government officials, more than 20 Director Generals of Civil Aviation, and more than 30 chief executives of airlines, airports, and aviation service providers, aircraft manufacturers, and other aviation companies. We have lined up the speakers for the Summit 2012. Here I'm just giving you some of the key speakers. Certainly there will be a whole range of speakers, both from around the globe as well as from various parts of the aviation industry. We have Dr. Asad Kote, who is the President Emeritus of the Council of the International Civil Aviation Organization. Dr. Kote has been in aviation for 50 years, and for 30 years he was actually the President of the Council of the International Civil Aviation Organization. His speech would cover how he sees aviation moving forward in the next century. Then we also have Mr. Sim Kallas, who is the Vice President of the European Commission and also the Commissioner of Transport. He will bring a European perspective to the summit. As you know, Europe is an active player in aviation, especially in the whole range of areas: safety, security, the environment. But his talk will focus on cooperation between Europe and Southeast Asia. Then of course we have Mr. Roberto Kobe Gonzalez, who is the current President of the Council of the International Civil Aviation Organization, and Mr. Tony Tyler, who is the Director General and CEO of the International Air Transport Association. They bring, of course, the international perspectives, both from the institution as well as industry. Just to have an idea of the other speakers, especially in the panels, we have Mr. Tom Enders, who is President and CEO of Airbus, Mr. John Pistol, the Administrator of the Transportation Security Administration of the United States of America, and of course Mr. Samir Majali, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Gulf Air. I put these three names there just to highlight to you that we are covering the globe and also the various parts of the aviation value chain. Now, the theme for the Aviation Leadership Summit 2012 is Driving Change, Overcoming Challenges Together. I think the summit is particularly timely, and I think the theme of the summit is particularly apt. I think, as you know, the aviation industry faces constant change and challenges. And if you look specifically at 2012, of course, there is global economic uncertainty because of the Eurozone crisis, and also projections are that there will be slowing economic growth in the United States, in Asia, and other parts of the world. And of course, with what is happening in the Middle East, the fuel prices will fluctuate even more. So this is again another challenge for the aviation industry. But if we look forward, the projections are that aviation will continue to grow. So in terms of passenger movement, the projection is that by 2015, there will be 700 million more passengers, bringing it to 3.5 billion passengers worldwide. In terms of cargo, the projection is that it will go to 36 million tons worldwide. So the challenge is in ensuring that we have smooth facilitation of passengers and air cargo with this growth, considering that we will also have to address safety, security, and environmental issues. Now, in addition to the rise in passenger and air cargo traffic, there will be more aircraft that will come in. The projections again, by 2030, we will have 25,000 more aircraft in addition to the 17,000 aircraft that is available now. And that would mean that our skies globally will be crowded. And this therefore means that we will really have to look at the air traffic management, how to make it more seamless in order to ensure both efficiency and safety of air traffic movement. Besides that, again, we are looking at the manpower needs for the industry. Projections by ICAO, 2026, we will require 350,000 more pilots, and we will require 480,000 more aircraft engineers and technicians. Now, this takes into account that many from the baby boomer generation will be leaving the industry. And of course, the aviation industry will have to compete with other industries for the talent and manpower that it requires. What is therefore necessary is for all the stakeholders to actually come together to look at not only the challenges but also the opportunities in aviation. Let me now move on to the panel discussion. Panel 1, of course, is on the theme itself. It takes a top-level view of the challenges to aviation. I've mentioned some before, but specifically, two of the areas that it is expected to discuss. Firstly, on the sustainability of airlines. Airlines form the core of the aviation value chain, but at the same time, airlines are always bearing the many challenges that impact on aviation. Again, I would just look at the figures in terms of the numbers of passengers and cargo that airlines have to carry. But if you look at it, just in 2012, because of the bleak economic outlook, IATA has already downgraded the passenger growth figures for 2012 globally from 4.6% to 4%. And this means that the profits for airlines will drop from 6.9 billion this year to 3.5 billion, from 6.9 billion last year to 3.5 billion this year, giving a margin of only 0.6% for the airline industry. And of course, if the Eurozone crisis actually breaks out into a banking crisis and cause a European recession, IATA projects that the airline industry will actually go into the red at about 8.3 billion loss. So this is one of the challenges for the sustainability of the airline industry. But of course, as I mentioned, over time, the airline industry is projected to grow. And here, therefore, we will have to see how we can deal with many more passengers that will go through the airports and much more amount of air cargo that goes through the logistics chain. There is a need to ensure that we have smooth facilitation for passengers so that we maintain a good passenger experience, and also to ensure smooth facilitation of air cargo so that we can support global trade. So this panel will look at the ways in order to address these challenges. And this brings me to panels 2 and 3, which will focus specifically on security and the environment. On security, at this point in time, the aviation industry spends about $7.4 billion a year on security. 10 years after September 11, the terrorists and other threats to aviation remain, and therefore security requirements will continue to grow. And as I mentioned, there's also a need to ensure that passengers have a hassle-free experience when they go through our airports. So this will be it will be necessary for the various stakeholders to then discuss about the ways forward in order to ensure that passengers continue to have an experience free of hassles, even as passenger movements grow. And what is required is perhaps to explore new approaches to security, for example, risk-based approaches, harmonization of security requirements, to the extent of perhaps even having one-stop security, and also looking at new technologies, looking at new concepts of screening passengers in order to ensure that the passengers can smoothly flow through the airports. The other thing, of course, is the need for government and industries to work together to look at both the security requirements as well as the security measures that need to be put in place. So moving on to panel 3, the emissions trading system and beyond. At this point in time, the international aviation accounts for about 2% of the global carbon emission. But with the projected growth of the aviation industry, this percentage is also expected to grow. So there's a need, of course, then for the aviation industry to do its part in addressing carbon emissions and climate change. And here, the aviation industry, led by IATA, has already committed to several targets. 1.5% fuel efficiency improvement by 2020. Second, from 2020, carbon neutral growth. And third, by 2050, a 50% reduction in carbon emissions from the baseline of 2005. This was presented to the International Civil Aviation Organization, and last year at the ICAO General Assembly, they adopted a resolution on international aviation and climate change with the target specifically of 2% fuel efficiency improvement for the aviation industry up to 2050. On the carbon neutral growth and the carbon reduction goals, the General Assembly decided that this will be targets that they will have to address further. So it is necessary for all the key stakeholders to discuss how we are going to achieve the targets that are set. And one particular area, of course, is to look at a global framework of solution. For example, in market-based measures, there is already a working group in ICAO that is looking into a global framework for market-based measures, and perhaps even exploring the idea of a global market-based measure. And again, here is where government and industry will have to work closely together. So I would just like to conclude by saying that the Aviation Leadership Summit 2012 will continue what we have set for Aviation Leadership Summit, which is that it will be a collective dialogue on the challenges and opportunities ahead for the aviation industry, and to really look at ways to take the aviation industry forward. Thank you very much.